Good day everyone, and especially to our instructor, Sir. I am Joy Marish Ilagan Mariano, Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Filipino. I am the reporter for today's topic, which is entitled The Importance of Persuasive Speech. First, let us define what persuasive means. According to dictionary from Oxford Language, persuasive means good at persuading someone to do or believe something through reasoning or the use of temptation. Another definition of persuasive is someone or something with the power to convince. Now, let us define what is persuasive speech. Persuasive speech is one of the three most daily used speeches. The other two types are informative and a special occasion. Persuasive speech is usual of persuasive speech. The sellers have a goal to convince buyers to buy their product. We also use persuasive speech in debates and legal proceeding. Persuasive speech is a specific type of speech in which the speaker has a goal of convincing the audience to accept his or her point of view. The speech is arranged in such a way as to hopefully cause the audience to accept all or part of the expressed view. Though the overarching goal of a persuasive speech is to convince the audience to accept perspective, not all audience can be convinced by a single speech, and not all perspective can persuade the audience. The success of a persuasive speech is often measured by audience willingness to consider the speaker's argument. And a persuasive presentation should be emotional in its delivery, which serves to convince the listener that your information is accurate and you care about them. Your skill as a speaker and your level of genuine enthusiasm helps determine how effective your speech will be with your audience. Prior to your presentation, research those who will be at the meeting, whether they are customers, prospects, or employees of your company, and know your topic well. Address the concerns and needs of your listeners and persuade them that your solution will advance their goals. Here is an example of a persuasive speech, the sales speech. During a sales speech, the speaker is trying to convince the audience to buy his or her product or service. If the salesperson is successful, the audience or the person being sold to will choose to purchase the product or services. However, salespeople understand that just because someone does not make a purchase after the first sale pitch does not mean the pitch failed. Persuasion is often a process. People may need multiple persuasive speeches and a lot of outside information before they are ready to accept a new view. Now, maybe you are asking why persuasive is important. So, persuasive is important because it provides good feelings to the audience if the speech correlates with the necessity of that certain place. It gives positive hope of solving existing problems. It gives opportunities to people to take a certain position to develop by convincing their plans, ideas, and visions. Important of persuasive speech with the development of technology, persuasion is getting more and more important than before. There are 5 reasons for regard to the importance of persuasion. First is persuasive communication is extremely increasing. Persuasive information is spread very quickly. Persuasion becomes more and more organized. Persuasive communication is suitable and diffuse. Analyzing the importance of persuasive speech, we can see that persuasive speech had become a common way of communication. Nowadays, people are using persuasive speech throughout time. For example, when a child wants something from their parents, they will automatically use a persuasive speech. And when a friend would like to invite their friends to go out, they will also use persuasive speech. Therefore, persuasive speech does not necessarily directed to the politicians, presidents, or public speakers. It can be used by when a child wants something from their parents, they will automatically use a persuasive speech. And when a friend would like to invite their friends to go out, anyone in anytime. This is one of the reasons why we should analyze the concept and method of persuasive speech. Persuasive speech is part of the area of persuasion. That's the reason why persuasive speech is important, and we need to give attention to the persuasive speech. Knowing the advantage and disadvantage of that, and apply it not only into our classes but also into our daily lives. Now, the importance of persuasive in our life. In our daily lives, we are often called to convince, motivate, or otherwise persuade others change their beliefs, take an action, or reconsider a decision. For some people, such as elected officials, giving persuasive speech is a crucial part of attaining and continuing career success. Topic also, I will give you some tips for writing a persuasive speech on any topic. On this topic also, I will give you some tips for writing a persuasive speech on any topic. The first one is write like you talk. There is no first law of speech writing, but if there were, it would probably be something like this. A speech is meant to be spoken, not read. The second one is tell a story. So, in your speech, you need to tell a story. You need to convince people like you are telling a story. This is structure matters. Be concise, be authentic, don't just speak, say something. And now let us learn some types of persuasive speech. There are 3 kinds of persuasive speech most often used in the area of beliefs and attitudes. These are speeches of facts, value, and policy. You can argue about what is, what should be, or how it should be. In making any of these kinds of speeches, you make specific claims that you seek to prove to your audience. You make these claims by the proposition you set forth. Propositions serve as the beliefs statement of your speech. Your proof, your case with the facts, logic, appeals to emotion, and your credibility. If the audience accepts your arguments and agrees with the facts, you will be successful. We divided the proposition into the 3 categories because each type requires a different is proposition of facts. A proposition of facts is one of that claims something is true or false. Some proposition of fact include America has 50 states. Water is composed of 2 parts, hydrogen, and 1 part is oxygen. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Each statement is a proposition that can be proven true or false by checking with authorities, a map, a chemistry textbook, and your experience and senses. Some propositions are quantifiable, like the number of states in the United States. Others are simply true or false, like the correct composition of water. The proposition of fact that will be the subject of most persuasive speeches are less straightforward. They might include the following. Violence on television causes child violence. More Americans are going to college than ever before. The athletic program at our college raises more money than it spends. Each of these propositions can be supported by conducting research in books, on the internet, or in your college financial statements. As you establish the truth of your proposition, you are impacting the belief of the audience. The second type of persuasive speech, or the second proposition, is the proposition of value. A proposition of value is one that asserts a speaker of values or a writer's sense of right and wrong. It discusses good and bad, just and unjust, the beautiful and the ugly. Value claims make judgments, and the readers need to evaluate the evidence and assumptions supporting such claims. Value claims try to prove that some idea, action, or condition is good or bad, right or wrong, worthwhile or worthless. This may include arguments or claims about a moral, aesthetic, or philosophical topic. Some propositions of value include capital punishment is cruel and unjust, the pursuit of happiness is a worthy life ambition, America's national parks enrich the nation. Each of these propositions can be supported by conducting research, but you will want to go farther and involve the emotion of the audience. In a speech about capital punishment, you will probably find data about the execution of people later found to be innocent due to DNA evidences, but you also may want to argue the unfairness of the way people are put to death or present the arguments made by the American Civil Liberties Union with the respect of unfairness of justice system. They argue that in many areas, almost 10 African Americans are executed for each Caucasian race and the death of penalty. As you establish the truth of your proposition, you impact both the attitudes and the beliefs of the audience. A proposition of value suggests certain values are important and that adoption of the proposition would achieve those desired values. Propositions of value are shown to be desirable or undesirable. For example, with respect of the Patriot Act, one can argue that privacy ought to be valued above security, or one can be argued that be valued over privacy. In this statement, the two values are privacy and security. Reasonable people could argue that one value, privacy, ought to be considered more important than another value, which is security. On the other hand, one could argue that security should be valued over privacy. The last type of persuasive speech or the last proposition is the proposition of policy. A proposition of policy is one that includes a statement calling for an action. The action is examined to determine whether such an action would be desirable or undesirable. For example, proposing that students should spend more time on homework or is a proposition of policy calling for a specific action. While the proposition is based on some value premise, the focus of the discussion is not necessarily on this underlying premise but more on desirability and ability to act. It is important to note that policies do not lead to values. Values lead to policies. Fact claim. Smoking marijuana is less harmful to one's health than smoking cigarettes. Value claim. The prejudice about the social condition that led to current marijuana legislation are outdated. Policy claim. Because the social condition that gave rise to current marijuana legislation no longer exists and because of the potential medical and financial benefits of its decriminalization. Lawmakers should reconsider the legal status of cannabis. Example from the right might include facts claim. Public school performances in the United States has plummeted over the past 20 years. Value claim. It's unfair to force taxpayers to contribute to a school system that does not serve them. Policy claim. Following the Canadian system, Congress should form a system for public funding of religious schools for families that opt out the public school system. There are also components of a persuasive speech. The first one is logic or logos. Your persuasive speech needs to have reasons, meaningful words, and logic that give your argument substances. All of the information you say needs to be connected logically and develop progressively until you've reached your conclusion. When writing your essay, you need to organize and all of the information, facts, and arguments into sequences that can be specific and general. With a chain of logical statements and facts, you make your argument more persuasive. Second one is ethic or ethos. Ethics or credibility is an essential element when trying to persuade someone. You need to believe in what you are arguing. You can establish credibility by using authoritative sources and real examples that prove your assumption. At the same time, it's vital to cover all the facts and angles and be well informed about your topic. This is how you will build authority and make people open to what you have to say in your paper. The last one is emotion or pathos. Emotion plays a vital role in persuading people of something. People are more likely to change their stance or perform an action when you move them on an emotional level. Use your facts and credibility to spark outrage, anger, sympathy, or any other emotional responses while exploring your topic. This is done by using emotional meaning, giving emotional examples tone, and talking about future events and their impact. Lastly, to summarize this topic, the overall goal of a persuasive speech is for the audience to accept your viewpoint as the speaker. However, this is not a nonce-enough definition to capture the actual goal of different persuasive speeches. Persuasive speeches can be designed to convince, actuate, and or stimulate the audience. Convincing. A convincing speech is designed to cause the audience to internalize and believe a viewpoint that they did not previously hold. In a sense of convincing, argument changes the audience's mind. For example, suppose you are giving a persuasive speech claiming that Coke is better than Pepsi. Your goal is not just to audience to hear that you enjoy Coke more, but for Pepsi lovers to change their minds. A woman standing in front of signs that says, "Vote." Actuation. Political candidates use the actuation speeches too, so that their supporters will cast their votes. Actuation and actuation speech has a slightly different goal. An actuation speech is designed to cause the audience to do something, to take some action. This type of speech is particularly useful if the audience already shares some or all of your views. For example, at the end of the president campaigns, candidates begin to focus on convincing their supporters to actually vote. They are seeking to actuate the action of voting through their speeches. The last one is stimulation. Persuasive speeches can also be used to enhance how fervently the audience believes in an idea. In these instances, the speaker understands that the audience already believes in the viewpoint, but not to the degree that he or she would like. As a result of this, the speaker tries to stimulate the audience, making them more enthusiastic about the view. For example, religious services often utilize stimulation. They are not trying to convince those of another religion to switch religions necessarily. There is an understanding that the congregation already accepts part or all of the stimulation. They are not trying to convince those of another religion to switch religions necessarily. There is an understanding that the congregation already accepts part or all of the religion. Instead, they are trying to enhance the degree of belief. So that's all for today's lesson. I hope that you learned more about my topic. Thank you for listening.